Captain Jake Morrison tasted copper blood in his mouth as consciousness slowly returned. The transport ship's emergency lights painted everything in hellish red, while sparks danced from torn panels overhead. His left shoulder screamed in agony, clearly dislocated, and he could feel bone fragments grinding in his right ankle with every slight movement. "Stay perfectly still," a melodic voice called through the smoky air. "You have multiple severe injuries that require immediate medical attention." Jake turned his head carefully, fighting waves of nausea, and found himself staring into the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen. They were deep purple, almost violet, and seemed to glow with their own inner light. The creature they belonged to was clearly not human, but breathtakingly elegant, with pale blue skin marked by intricate silver patterns that seemed to shift in the emergency lighting. "Dr. Zena Cathara," he managed, recognizing the xenobiologist from their mission briefing. "The empathic specialist." Her pointed ears twitched forward at his recognition. "Yes, Captain Morrison. Please remain motionless while I assess your condition." She approached with fluid grace, her long silver hair flowing like liquid mercury. "Your injuries are extensive. Dislocated shoulder, compound fracture in the ankle, possible internal bleeding. How are you even conscious?" Jake couldn't help but chuckle, immediately regretting it as pain shot through his ribs. Because consciousness is useful for staying alive. He carefully pushed himself up with his good arm, ignoring her startled protest. "I need to set these bones before swelling makes it impossible." Zena's skin patterns flared bright silver in what he assumed was alarm. "That's impossible. The pain alone should render you unconscious. My species cannot function with such trauma." "Well, I'm not your species," Jake said, already examining his dislocated shoulder with clinical detachment. "Could you grab that medical kit from the wall? I'm going to need supplies." She retrieved the kit with trembling hands, her silver patterns now pulsing rapidly. "Your pain levels must be overwhelming. I can feel the echo of it through my empathic abilities." "How do you function?" "Pain is just information," Jake explained, laying out medical supplies with practiced efficiency. "Right now it's telling me exactly what needs fixing. Fair warning, though, this next part might be disturbing." Before Zena could respond, Jake braced himself against the wall and smoothly popped his shoulder back into its socket with a wet crack. He let out a shaky laugh, partly from relief and partly from the look of absolute horror on Zena's delicate features. "There. One problem solved," he said, rolling the shoulder carefully. "Now for this ankle. Don't suppose you have any medical training beyond xenobiology." Zena's skin patterns had taken on an almost frantic quality, shifting between silver and deep blue. "I have extensive theoretical knowledge, but my people don't endure trauma individually. We share all pain through our neural networks until it becomes manageable." She moved closer, drawn by horrified fascination. "You experienced all of that?" "Agony alone," and actually smiled. "Sometimes you have to find humor in bad situations," Jake said, preparing local anesthetic for his ankle surgery. "Helps keep you sane when everything goes wrong. Speaking of which, want to help? I could use an extra pair of hands." Despite her obvious distress, Zena knelt beside him. "What do you need me to do?" "Just follow my instructions and try not to." "Faint when I start cutting," Jake grinned. "Think of it as a crash course in human emergency medicine." Probably poor choice of words given our situation. As Jake began working on his ankle, talking Zena through each step, he noticed how her initial horror gradually transformed into intense scientific curiosity. Her hands remained steady even when her skin patterns betrayed her continued unease. "Your species truly experiences all sensation individually?" she asked, helping him align the bone fragments. "No sharing, no distribution of trauma, completely." "Alone," Jake confirmed, gritting his teeth as he set the brake. "Every human deals with their own pain, their own fear, their own everything. It's just how we're built." Zena's purple eyes widened with something beyond scientific interest. "That isolation should be maddening, yet you seem remarkably stable. How do you cope with such loneliness?" Jake met her gaze while securing the final bandage. "We find other ways to connect. Physical touch, emotional intimacy, shared experiences. Different from your neural networks, but just as powerful in its own way." A violent gust of wind shook the damaged hull, drawing their attention to the viewport. The storm outside had intensified beyond anything they had prepared for, with visibility dropping to 0. Environmental readings indicate temperatures will continue falling, Xena reported, checking her instruments. My species evolved on a much warmer world. This cold will become problematic quickly. Then we need to conserve heat, Jake said, attempting to stand and immediately regretting it as pain shot through his ankle. Xena moved with surprising speed, catching him before he could fall. The contact brought them suddenly close. Her alien beauty only inches from his face. Her skin was incredibly soft against his arm, and he could feel warmth radiating from her slender form. Her purple eyes widened as she noticed his reaction. Your heart rate has increased, she observed softly, her scientific detachment slipping. Is it the pain causing this response? Among other things, Jake replied, allowing himself to lean into her support. Her silver hair brushed against his cheek, carrying a scent like ocean mist and starlight. They spent the next hour creating a makeshift shelter within the shuttle, using emergency blankets and salvaged insulation. Jake directed the construction while Xena did most of the physical work, her strength surprising him despite her graceful build. Temperature continues dropping, Xena reported, her skin patterns now showing flecks of worried blue. We should combine our thermal blankets and share body heat for survival purposes. Jake looked up from organizing their supplies, noting the slight tremor in her voice. Worried about getting close to a broken human? I'm concerned about your injuries, yes, she replied, though her shifting skin patterns suggested other concerns. My species typically reserves such intimate physical contact for very specific circumstances. Consider it a cultural exchange in the name of survival, Jake suggested, trying to keep his tone light despite the growing cold. Besides, you've already had your hands all over me during that surgery. Xena's patterns flared bright silver, which he was learning indicated embarrassment. She helped him arrange their sleeping area, her movements careful and precise. Your ability to maintain humor despite severe trauma continues to fascinate me. It's a human thing, Jake said, settling onto their makeshift bed. Helps us process stress and fear, among other emotions. The sensation was electric, her alien beauty combined with genuine concern, creating an intimacy he hadn't expected. Your species continues to surprise me, she murmured, carefully arranging herself to avoid his injuries. Her silver patterns had taken on a softer, warmer glow. Perhaps you could tell me more about human psychology while we wait out this storm. Like that, Jake replied, acutely aware of every point where their bodies connected. Though I should warn you, human psychology isn't even our most interesting feature. Xena's patterns rippled in what might have been amusement. Somehow I'm beginning to suspect that. Her voice carried a warmth that had nothing to do with their shared body heat. The storm raged outside their small shelter. But inside, a different kind of heat was beginning to build. Jake found himself studying the intricate patterns on Xena's skin, noting how they seemed to respond to her emotions with subtle shifts in color and intensity. Those markings, he said softly, do they always react to what you're feeling? Among my people, yes, she replied, her patterns brightening slightly at his attention. They make deception nearly impossible. Right now, they're likely betraying thoughts I should keep private. What kind of thoughts? Jake asked, reaching out to gently trace one of the silver lines along her arm. Her skin was impossibly soft, and he felt a slight tremor run through her at the contact. Thoughts about interspecies attraction, she admitted, her patterns now glowing noticeably brighter. About what it might be like to experience sensation the human way, individually and intensely. Their faces drew closer in. The dim light, the moment electric with possibility. But before either could act on the growing tension between them, a sound from outside made them both freeze. Something large was moving in the storm, circling their crashed ship with predatory patience. Their eyes met in shared understanding. They were no longer alone on this frozen world, and whatever was out there was hunting them. Xena's skin patterns flashed urgent silver as she moved to check their perimeter sensors. 3 large heat signatures. Apex predators, likely drawn by our body heat in the crash. Her patterns shifted to deep blue, indicating genuine terror. They're circling us. Jake grabbed the emergency plasma rifle, checking its charge while fighting to ignore the pain in his ankle. What's their hunting pattern like? Do they attack immediately or test defenses first? I don't know, Xena admitted, her patterns now cycling rapidly between silver and blue. But there's something else, Jake. I'm receiving distress signals. Through my empathic network, other research stations across the sector are under attack. Something coordinated is happening. Before Jake could respond, Xena suddenly doubled over, her patterns flaring white-hot with agony. She gripped his arm, her usually gentle touch, now desperate with claws slightly extended. The network, she gasped, her purple eyes wide with shared trauma. So many of my people are dying. I can feel their terror, their pain. It's overwhelming everything. Jake dropped the rifle and pulled her against him, understanding flooding through him. Your empathic connection, you're experiencing every death, every injury across your entire species network. My people aren't built to handle this level of trauma individually. Then don't handle it alone, Jake said firmly, cupping her face and forcing her to meet his eyes. A massive impact against the hull interrupted them, but Jake kept his attention on Xena. Look at me. Focus only on this moment, on my voice, on the sensation of my hands on your skin. Everything else is background noise. Xena's patterns began to stabilize slightly as she concentrated on his touch. We don't shut it out, Jake explained, stroking her silver hair. We choose what to focus on. Right now, I'm choosing to focus on keeping you anchored, on the feel of your skin under my fingers, on how beautiful you look even when you're terrified. Her patterns shifted to warmer colors as his words registered. You find me beautiful? Breathtaking, Jake confirmed, running his thumb along one of the silver lines on her cheek. Another impact rocked the shuttle, but Xena's patterns remained relatively stable now. Your focus technique is working. The network feels distant. When I concentrate on immediate physical sensations... Good, Jake said, reluctantly reaching for the rifle again. Because we're about to have company, and I need you fully present for this fight. The hull finally gave way with a screech of tortured metal. Through the breach, Jake caught glimpses of pale, scaled hide and far too many teeth. The creatures were massive, easily twice the size of Earth's largest predators, with intelligent eyes that spoke of cunning as well as hunger. No, Xena said firmly, producing her own weapon, a sleek energy projector that hummed with alien power. We faced this together. The human way, as you said. The first creature lunged through the breach, and Jake fired. The plasma bolt caught its center mass, but the beast barely slowed. Nice shot, Jake grinned, impressed by her accuracy. I've been studying human combat techniques, she replied, her patterns now showing steady determination instead of fear. Your species' approach to individual action is quite effective. 2 more creatures pressed through the breach simultaneously. Jake and Xena moved in perfect coordination, their weapons finding targets with deadly precision. But Jake's injured. Ankle betrayed him at a crucial moment, sending him stumbling just as one beast lunged. Xena threw herself between them without hesitation, her energy weapon firing at point-blank range. The creature's claws raked across her shoulder, drawing silver blood, but her shot took it down permanently. You're hurt, Jake said, moving to examine her wounds despite his own pain. As are you, she replied, but her patterns had taken on a warm golden glow as she looked at him. That's what you do for someone you care about. Xena's patterns brightened dramatically. Care about? Before Jake could. The remaining creatures retreated, apparently unwilling to continue hunting in the worsening conditions. We need better shelter, Xena observed, checking her readings. The temperature is dropping to lethal levels, and the storm will likely last several more hours. They gathered their supplies and moved deeper into the shuttle, finding a more protected compartment. As they worked to insulate their new shelter, Jake noticed how Xena's movements had changed. Gone was the hesitant grace of earlier, replaced by confident, purposeful action. You're different, he observed, securing an emergency blanket over a damaged section of wall, Jake asked, settling on to their improvised bedding. Intense, Xena admitted, lying down beside him. Every sensation is amplified when you're not sharing it with thousands of others. Cold feels sharper, but so does warmth. She pressed closer to him, and her patterns flared bright gold. So does attraction, the way she said it, combined with how her body molded. Against his left no doubt about her meaning. Your cardiovascular response indicates arousal, she observed, her voice taking on a husky quality. Among my people, such reactions are shared across the network, diluted by distance and numbers. But feeling it individually, directly, double quotes, is overwhelming, Jake suggested, running his fingers through her silver hair. Is intoxicating, she corrected, her patterns now cycling through warm golds and deep purples. I understand now why humans value individual connections so highly. The intensity of private sensation is unlike anything I've experienced. Jake traced one of the silver lines along her neck, feeling her shiver at the contact. Are you sure about this? Your people might not understand? Right now? I don't care what my people understand, Xena replied, her patterns blazing with brilliant. She leaned in, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that sent electricity through both their bodies. Her patterns exploded into a cascade of colors Jake had never seen before, and he realized he was witnessing something no other member of her species had ever experienced: pure, unshared passion. The storm raged outside, but neither of them was paying attention anymore. They had discovered something far more interesting than mere survival. Jake woke to the sensation of gentle fingers tracing the patterns of his injuries. Opening his eyes, he found Xena examining his healing wounds with professional focus, though her skin patterns glowed with warm satisfaction that had nothing to do with medical assessment. How do you feel? She asked, her voice carrying new intimacy after their night together. Like I've been hit by a shuttle, Jake replied with a grin, but significantly better than yesterday. Your empathic healing abilities are remarkable, Xena's patterns shifted to pleased gold. By linking our neural pathways during intimacy, I was able to transfer regenerative energy more efficiently than ever before. Jake sat up carefully, marveling at how much his pain had decreased. Is that a normal ability for your species? Healing, yes, but not the intensity we achieved, Xena explained, her patterns flickering with remembered passion. Shared consciousness dilutes individual connections. What we experienced was purely private, purely powerful. A distant humming sound interrupted their conversation. Xena's ears perked up, and her patterns immediately shifted to alert silver. Rescue ships, she announced, moving to check her instruments. Multiple vessels, both human and my species design. They've located our crash site. Jake felt a complex mix of relief and disappointment. That's good news, is it? Xena asked quietly, her patterns now showing uncertain blue. Once we're rescued, you'll return to human space, and I'll rejoin my people's collective. Last night will become just a memory. Before Jake could respond, the shuttle's communication system crackled to life. This is Commander Torres of the Human Expedition Force. Captain Morrison, please respond if you're receiving this. Jake reached for the communicator, but hesitated when he saw the conflict in Xena's patterns. Jake Morrison here, Commander. 2 survivors, both mobile. Dr. Xena Cathara and myself. Standing. Captain, we'll have you extracted within the hour. Be advised, we have reports of coordinated attacks across the sector. Both human and alien forces are working together to investigate. Another voice joined the transmission, speaking in the musical tones of Xena's species. She responded in kind, but Jake noticed her patterns growing more agitated with each exchange. What's wrong? He asked when she finished the conversation. My people are demanding a full neural download of my experiences, she explained, her patterns now cycling rapidly, between fear and defiance. They want to understand how I survived the empathic trauma from the network attacks. If I comply, they'll experience everything we shared. Jake felt cold that had nothing to do with the weather, including last night. Including last night, she confirmed. Our intimacy, our private moments, everything would become part of the collective memory. Thousands of my people would experience what should belong only to us. The sound of approaching ships grew louder. Jake could see lights. Through the storm, multiple vessels converging on their position. Then don't tell them, he said simply. Xena's patterns flared with surprise. Refuse the neural download? It's unprecedented. My people will be suspicious. Let them be suspicious, Jake replied, moving closer to her. Some things are worth keeping private. You don't understand, Zena said, her patterns now showing deep purple distress. Refusing would mean exile from the collective, permanent separation from my species' shared consciousness.
Oh.
I would be truly alone. Jake cupped her face gently, noting how her patterns immediately warmed at his touch. You wouldn't be alone. You'd have me. Her patterns exploded into brilliant gold, but quickly shifted to conflicted blue. You're asking me to choose between my entire species and one human. I'm not asking you to choose anything, Jake said softly. I'm telling you that whatever you decide, I'll support. But I want you to know that what we shared meant everything to me. The rescue ships landed with a thunder of engines and displacement drives. Through the viewport, Jake could see teams from both species preparing to extract them. They're coming, Xena whispered, her patterns now cycling rapidly through the entire spectrum. Whatever happens next, Jake said, pulling her into one final embrace. Remember that for one night you experienced something completely your own. No one can take that away from you. Xena's patterns stabilized into warm gold as she pressed against him. And you showed me that individual sensation could be more powerful than any collective experience. The extraction team breached their shelter, led by a human commander and an alien official whose own patterns displayed formal authority. Both looked surprised to find the survivors in such intimate proximity. Captain Morrison, Commander Torres, said briskly, "We need immediate medical evaluation and debriefing." The alien official, whose patterns showed cool detachment, addressed Xena directly. "Dr. Cathara, you will undergo neural extraction immediately. Your survival data is crucial. For understanding the coordinated attacks," Xena stood slowly, her patterns shifting to determine silver. "I respectfully decline neural extraction at this time." The official's patterns flared with shocked orange. "Decline? That is not possible. The collective requires your data." "The collective will have to wait," Xena replied, moving to stand. Beside Jake, her patterns now showed unwavering resolve. "I choose to maintain my individual consciousness for now." Commander Torres looked between them with growing understanding. "I see. Captain Morrison, are you prepared for transport?" "Wherever Dr. Cathara goes," Jake said firmly, "I go too." The alien official's patterns cycled through multiple colors of distress and confusion. This is unprecedented. Individual consciousness. Maintenance requires constant reinforcement. "She cannot survive alone. She won't be alone," Jake replied, taking Xena's hand. Her patterns blazed with joy at the contact. As they were escorted to the rescue ships, Xena whispered to Jake, "You realize this means I'm choosing exile from my people." "Are you sure that's what you want?" Jake asked, though his heart hammered with hope. Xena's patterns settled into steady, warm gold. "I've learned that some experiences are worth having individually. Some connections are too precious to share with anyone else. Even if it means being cut off from your species' collective consciousness." "Especially then," she replied, squeezing his hand. "You've shown me that two minds connecting completely can be more powerful than thousands connecting partially." As their rescue ship lifted off from the frozen moon, Jake watched Xena stare out at the stars. Her patterns showed no regret, only anticipation for their uncertain future together. "No second thoughts?" he asked. "Only excitement," she replied, her patterns brightening. "I want to explore every aspect of individual consciousness, and I can't think of anyone I'd rather discover it with." Jake pulled her close, marveling at how this alien beauty had chosen him over her entire civilization. "Think your people will eventually understand?" "Perhaps," Xena said, her patterns showing amused gold. "After all, they did always say I was too curious for my own good." As their ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward an uncertain but shared future, both knew they had found something rare in the universe, a connection worth abandoning, everything else to preserve. The alien girl who had once screamed in horror at human resilience now smiled with her own quiet strength. Having learned that sometimes the most beautiful discoveries come from the courage to experience life individually, intensely, and completely. The end.